Welcome, everybody. This is a beautiful afternoon in Nashua, and I am so glad to invite you to our very first show, Wellness from Within. My co-host, Miss Marie, and myself will be coming to you once a month, the last Wednesday of every month, to share with you what's going on in our world. We're going to lead you through the healthcare crisis, what's going on right now, and how your wellness, our wellness, is essential in these times. So I hope that you enjoy this show and you tell all your friends and join us every Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month. So thank you, Marie, for joining me. I am super excited. Yeah, we've been planning this for a little while.
Yep.
And finally, it's here. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? They know all about me and what you do, what you're all about, and how you got involved in this.
All right. I'm a healing arts practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also the author of The Missing Piece to Health and Aging Gracefully, and I'm the founder of the Body Within Healing modality. And it's an energy type medicine, but it's not the type of energy medicine that we know and think energy medicine is. It's more about going inward and listening to your body and using the self-healing that your body has already been born with.
Okay.
So I help people dive into that part of themselves and to use the medicine they choose, but what is their role first before they choose the medicine. I've been doing it for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have so much knowledge as far as the Western world and how that works, the alternative world and how that works, how to mold them together, how they don't go well together, how people fear them or don't fear them, how people misuse one versus the other, and how we're the key to really kind of being the middle of it and then using the one that's right. And hopefully this show will help people get more involved in their own healing, because being in the healthcare crisis that we're in now, it's crucial that we start taking responsibility for our health.
Well, I think for so many decades, I don't think it's years anymore, it's decades, we've all said, oh, you just have to go to the doctor. The doctor will do it, the this, the that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you didn't make that choice and you chose an alternative, the risk was that you'd be ridiculed, you'd be called a nutcase,
right.
Or you wouldn't,
right.
or if something actually worked for you, it wouldn't be believed. So I think you're entirely correct when you talk about the crisis that we're in right now.
The crisis isn't necessarily that part of it, also because the internet adds to that and the knowledge that's out there. The crisis that we're facing today is the shortage of healthcare, the ERs that are locking down, the lack of nursing staff, the lack of nursing homes, nobody to the backup of the tests, the backup of getting surgeries when you need them.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it is backed up. They knew this for years that it was going to come. This is not just a COVID thing. It's just because people are not going into medicine. The population is aging. There's all these factors that go into it, but what's happening is people are taking less care of themselves as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of preventable, treatable things that people can do for themselves to not end up in the system and keep bogging it down. That way the system is for those who truly need it.
For emergencies and traumas.
Right, but what's happening now are
sicknesses.
Preventable illnesses, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, even some cancers that are all inflammatory and lifestyle driven are bogging down a system. The over-exercising, the under-exercising. There's so many factors. There's not one person you're going to point a finger at. It's a whole society that we just do not understand what we're capable of, and we just listen to the quick fix infomercial medicine out there that's damaging us, between the detoxes, the low calorie diets, the keto diets, the over exercising, the under exercising, the supplementation, the too many drugs, you name it. And everybody is just a puppet to one of those versus going within and saying, okay, what does my body need?
So some people would say, well, what do you mean going within? And in our society, there seems to be, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it, I don't know, whatever your word is, finding your spirit, it's all the same thing. And what we've lost track of is how to listen to our bodies.
I think, like anything, anytime you have a modality that somebody follows, it lessens the impact of what you can do with it because you're listening to someone else's words and what worked for them. I created the body within healing, and I call it the body within because there's a piece of us we all know that talks to us on a daily basis. And we don't like it, what it says.
Right.
There isn't a person alive that can sit here and tell me they don't hear their body within. My form is to show you how to listen to that more because it legitimately has your answers to the point where I've healed myself from long thoracic nerve damage, and I had lost the use of my right side and many other allergies, asthma, and all kinds of things. I work with young children that can now assess their bodies by closing their eyes and going inward. I work with adults that are realigning their tissue and breaking up their own scar tissue and listening. You know, they have a plan for their exercise, but then they realize their body wants to do something different. And they're just listening to their inner guidance because we weren't born helpless.
No.
We're choosing to be.
Correct.
Because it's easier to listen to everyone else and we don't trust ourselves enough. So my goal is, I call it the body within because it's the part of you in you that you don't listen to. I'm not talking about a religion or going to another source outside yourself. I'm talking go home. Go home. Find out what's in there. You know, and everybody's adverse to it because they don't like the answers.
Well, it also takes time, and you actually have to clear your schedule and sit somewhere quietly and find out what is going on. Do I feel well? Do I not feel well? Is this a big problem? Is this not a big problem? And just to identify that, I think is a big step for a lot of people. And we haven't talked about that in a long, long time.
I think the key to it all, my favorite saying is chaos breeds chaos, balance breeds peace. Because when you live in chaos, chaos is going to happen because you're in a reactionary behavior all the time. So you're rushing to work and you're not paying attention that you missed to pack your lunch, and then your day just goes on and on from there because you're reacting to one thing after the other. Chaos breeds chaos, balance breeds peace, meaning once you bring yourself into balance and you take that extra few minutes in the morning to see what you need or the night before, and you start to assess and you don't live in reactionary behavior, you live in where you're at, things start to change. And then you don't have to actually take all this extra time because you're living in the time you have now.
Right.
You're not 5 steps ahead or 20 steps behind.
Nice. I like that idea. I've talked to so many people and they don't know where to start. And we're such a society of, I need the answer, get it on your phone or go to the doctor or go wherever. And we have not sat down and figured out who am I? And I mean that just from who am I as a living, breathing person? What hurts? What doesn't hurt?
Right.
What am I doing? Why am I?
We're totally afraid to self-assess ourselves and do any of our own tissue work, do any of our own deep stretching because there was so many things. We went from eggs being bad to burgers being bad, but we also went from you can't massage your leg, you're going to cause blood clots. You can't do this, and we're so paralyzed. But we should be able to massage our own arm when it hurts. We should be able to rub our neck and maybe just move our skull a little bit and all of a sudden it releases. I'm not saying you should yank on your head and whip it around, but we should be able to start to really get to know our bodies. Does one leg feel longer than the other? I created my posture for life because it takes 15 minutes a day and it helps you self-assess everything and it realigns the nervous system. So any wear and tear you have on your body for the day, you can reverse it and then start straight again because everything we do throws us off. And then when you get thrown off, your body just keeps multiplying. So we need a starting point to work from. The problem with the posture for life is it takes 15 minutes.
Oh, gee, that long?
Oh, yes. That's a long time for most people. And I tell people you should do it from start to finish because we start at the ankles and we work all the way up and we realign everything. Well, now they're doing one piece here and one piece there, and it doesn't help them as much.
Correct.
Well, it's not going to because your whole body is this intricate system of the nervous system firing in a pattern. So if you start overfiring the wrist when you're doing these things, now you're going to throw the other shoulder off. So it's designed, like if you've been sitting all day, compressing that spine to get you back up and open. So when you go do your gardening, you don't throw your back out. But 15 minutes for most people is like the most horrible thing you could ask them to do, which is really sad because if you look at the statistics, I read it some time ago, 6 to 8 hours extra a day from our ancestors because we have washing machines, we have microwaves, we have dishwashers, we have cars, we don't
have
farm our own
vacuums.
food,
Yeah.
we have vacuums, you know? What are we doing with all that time?
Yeah, what are we doing?
You know, if you're a single mom working 2 jobs, I get it.
Right.
I get it, but most people are not like that. Most people have 15 minutes a day. But what's happening with this healthcare crisis, we have to wake up and start taking that 15 to 20 minutes. Because I had a client a couple weeks ago. She was in an emergency situation and she couldn't even get into Dartmouth because their ER was closed. She had to be ambulanced to another hospital 2 hours away. That's a big deal.
Yep. Well,
That's a big deal. My husband needed hip replacement. He had to wait 8 months. 8 months, and then his second one was another 6 months after that because the schedule is completely booked.
oh my goodness.
I have people waiting months for tests because the system, you know, to get into urologists in this area, you could be a year or two wait to get into a urologist or a neurologist. So it's getting challenging where people have to start saying, okay, what do I do? Because you only want to be there when you're sick. You don't want to be there for all these chronic little things.
Correct.
And you have to look at aging. What is my aging going to look like? Because this system is not going to save you.
No. And it's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of back and forth. For what? For something that is potentially.
I mean, there was a news clip with Governor Sununu this week, and somebody was trying to pin him on one of the VA facilities had 25 empty beds and nobody to work, and these VAs were waiting on a wait list and they were trying to call him out on it. And he goes, I know. The whole system is like that globally.
Yeah.
What do you want from me? But they were trying to make it like he did something wrong.
Correct, that it's all his fault.
So everybody wants to blame somebody, but there's nobody to blame other than what are we going to do for ourselves?
What's the solution? What's
Because
the
we
answer?
have to. We have no choice. We have to start stepping up. Because if you don't, it's not a good outcome. Because I know somebody in a nursing home, I mean, there's one aide to I don't know how many patients and no nurse on the floor half the time. Do you want to be in that facility, or do you want to be home doing your gardening like the 90-year-old next door who's been moving their whole life?
Correct.
Or do you want to be the one on the couch waiting for somebody to change your bandages?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And well, I think from a family point of view, that stop shoving people out, that we do need to look at our parents and grandparents and see how we can keep them mobile in their own homes. I mean, I know that's sort of a slightly different subject, but then again, no, it's not, because if we're helping them take care of themselves, we're helping ourselves.
Right. And I think the biggest thing is the overwhelming amount of information out there. Because you can go on the internet and find out all these easy fixes that supersede you taking the time for yourself. But they never work. They're never long-term. They screw up your metabolism. The bone density and muscle wasting on these quick fixes is horrific, and you can't get that back.
Correct.
And that
Once it's
sets
gone.
you up for very frail aging. That is a frailty issue. That is not healthy aging. So the goal here is to help you start navigating the overwhelming system to know if you want to use Western, if you want to use the alternative modality, if you want to use your own stuff. And we're going to bring in all the modalities that we know to exist, dive into them, find out what they would work for. Does this one work for back? Does this one work for neck? Does this one work for, your digestion? Between chiropractic, acupuncture, you can even go into art therapy. You can go into prolotherapy. I have a list. I'm starting a community website, and hopefully I'll have it up in the next few shows, that's going to have all these modalities out there and what they're good for. So if you're questioning, what can I do for myself because the system isn't serving me, you're going to have a toolbox that you can go to, because we all need a toolbox.
Yes.
We
get stuck in a groove. We get stuck in one lane,
Right.
and we're afraid to step off because, oh my goodness, if I
Right.
try this is going to happen. We what if ourselves to death.
And the question I hear in my head now when I'm saying that to everybody, they're like, well, how are we going to know which one to use? That's where that little weird energy medicine word comes in, and the body within. Because we're going to learn how to start to listen to ourselves, and we're going to read one and we're going to go, no, not because we fear it, not because we don't want to pay for it, not because someone else told us something about it, because something inside of us is
saying
telling
no.
it. Then you're going to see another one and say, that is the weirdest thing I ever heard, but something inside of me thinks I should try it. And that's what happens when you start listening, because you're going to do the darndest things you never did before, and you're going to find answers you didn't know existed. Because I can tell you, after 20 years of doing this, most healing comes in a package we didn't even know existed. Maybe something you're doing yourself. Maybe something that was in your environment you didn't know. Maybe, you know, something genetic that you weren't aware of. Maybe, you know, something that just haphazard, you show up and your answer's right there. It's never in that supplement or that doctor's office like we've been programmed to think. We are part of the whole healing process.
Right. And it's 24/7. It's not just when you make that appointment.
Right.
It's 24/7.
Right.
Why am I not sleeping? Why am I waking up early?
Right.
You know, why does my stomach hurt? Why do I have an earache?
Sleeping. I don't know how many people I say, well, I try yoga before bed. I don't have time for that. I don't like yoga. It hurts me. But there's a million forms of yoga. You can go anywhere from chair yoga to an Ashtanga yoga to Vipassana yoga to a Hatha yoga. You can go so many levels, so many different ways.
There has to be
Some
one
of
that's
it's just
gonna suit.
breathing, but we're so tunneled. No, I don't like yoga. I saw it's twisty. It's a pretzel. So we're going to delve into those things that stop us from helping ourselves all the time, because we have these barriers we don't even know we have, and we shut down an answer before it even shows
We don't
up.
don't even think about it for a second. It's instantly no.
we're not gonna
The
do it.
only
We're
time
not
that
gonna
we
do it.
ever say no, when we should be saying, well, maybe, yes,
Yeah.
let's see what happens.
So you can't even crave the nutrients that you need if you've already been adverse to it. I ate asparagus. I don't like the way it felt when I was 2. So now I'm not going to eat it when I'm 30. You know, and there's all these barriers, which is so fascinating, that stops us from helping ourselves.
And where do those barriers come from?
Oh God, it could be anywhere. It
Right.
could be genetically. It could be from how you grew up. It could be from a bad experience that happened. It could be from something you read. It could be just your personality is more fear-based. So you saw something and it made you make the story in your head that doesn't even exist. Some of it's real, something bad happened to you, and you bring that forward. But the key to learning to listen to your body and being present, what happened to you before shouldn't be dictating what's happening to you now.
There you go.
It limits you so much from taking that step into helping yourself.
I could agree with you totally. It's amazing to hear this and my journey of where I started and where I am now and what I'm open to. And what I find really funny is what I would have thought was woo-woo, people like to call it woo-woo, is truly not. And my brother in California is now looking into different modalities. And
that's the disconnect, the woo-woo part, because
Yep.
again, you know, you take the Western model of medicine, everybody thinks doctors, nurse, that's it. You take the alternative part, they think nurse practitioner, checkbook, supplements, whatever. You think woo-woo medicine, angels, guides, crazy person. It's not true.
Nope.
None of them are true.
Nope.
They're all pieces you might have seen, but there's so much more behind every door. So what I'd like to do is just have people sit for a minute, and I want them to just close their eyes, and you do it too.
okay.
Okay? And just see where you're at right now in life. How you feel on a daily basis, how your body performs throughout the day. Are you happy with what's going on? Do you have aches and pains? Do you have fatigue issues? Do you not sleep well? Do you have chronic pain issues or whatever? And now think about all those things. Are they just going to go away, or are they going to be there in 5 years, or are they going to be worse in 5 years?
Am I going to answer you?
I just want you to think about it.
Okay.
So the goal in this is people don't pay attention to that backache, but it's causing arthritis and it's causing stenosis that all of a sudden you're going to have a limp and maybe need back surgery in 15 years because you didn't take the time to straighten your back out when you were 30 sitting at a desk all day. Everything accumulates. That's the point of this. We have to start being present to know. I mean, being the computer age we're at, nobody moves.
Correct. Very sedentary.
And you just compress. So you have to pay attention, because that backache is going to cost you so much, even in your 50s versus your parents was probably their 80s. So everybody should take just a wellness check of themselves. And if they're not happy with where you're at, it's time to make some changes.
Correct.
And it's time to go inward and start to get to know yourself and what's going to work. And I'm not saying you should run to a doctor, because a lot of times they can't help you with the achy back. You go on the internet, you're going to be like, oh my God, what do I do with my achy back? Do I try
Right.
this? Or I try, oh, that hurt me. I'm not going to do that.
Is it dull? Is it pulling? Is it this?
Not only that, the exercises. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen anything from exercise physiologists give you the most phenomenal workout to some guy give you something that's going to put you in traction. So you have to be careful, but how do you know how to navigate that is the key.
Right. And that's what this show is
Right.
going to do. This is
Right.
going to be a classroom to learn from.
I'm hoping that people can start to just form this big toolbox. So when I have an issue, you know, if I burn myself, I know that I can clear the energy, because your energy is in a field. You're in like this cased up bubble and it starts to throb. If you start to diffuse that and throw the energy outside your bubble, the throbbing is just going to go away, any energy you have. You can self-heal yourself a lot with energy techniques that are just crazy. And you're like, did that really just happen? Am I insane? But they really do work.
And we need to not judge each other and not call down on each other when we want to try this. So this is going to be totally open. You can watch us and you can do it in your own house. We can't see you. There's no reverse cameras. So you'll be able to follow along.
You know, it's funny because I had a high school kid, and he was doing the work most of his life because he played football and baseball and all kinds of things. And he could self-assess his body, and he could realign his body on my table when we worked together, when he went off from too many workouts or he got hit in football or whatever. And I hadn't seen him for a while, and his hip was out. And he just knew his squats weren't right. He knew he was tracking wrong in his hip. And he knew from our work that you want to correct that, because if you're squatting 250 pounds, you don't want that little bit of tracking wrong.
Correct.
Because that's going to accumulate. So he went to his athletic trainer. They told him he was fine. They didn't see anything. He went to his orthopedic surgeon. They told him he didn't see anything. He went to his coach. Nobody got it. So he did my techniques and laid on the floor. And he said after the breathing and reassessing and asking his body to help him, he heard this pop and his hip shifted and he felt amazing. But then he freaked out and he didn't talk to me for over 6 months.
Because it worked.
Because it worked.
And it wasn't something he expected. He probably, in the little part of his head, that little voice said, this isn't going to work. And then when it did work, well, what are you going to do now?
What are you going to do now?
What's the next step?
And when I finally got to talk to him, his whole thing was, why didn't they know? How could I know? And why didn't they know? I go, because you already know. We all know. We just don't want to know. Because we were taught that we're not that cool.
Right.
That we don't have the ability to self-assess. You can't fix everything. I'm not saying that we should give up medicine. I do not believe that at all. But there's a lot we can do. I mean, you can turn and crack your back. So why can't you lay there and self-assess and figure out how to do it that way?
Right. Figure out.
Your body's going to adjust itself.
It will. And if it can't, it'll tell you.
Then you use a chiropractor because it's too stuck. You know, and that we'll go into that further on different ways you can do that. But it's just, we have to start staying home.
Yeah, we do. And staying home within ourselves and trusting ourselves. When they say, it's funny in speaking with you, not funny as in amusing, but funny as in strange, that I'm hearing in my head the other voice talk about baggage. Literally, that gives another whole meaning to the word carrying around baggage, another whole meaning to, you know, home. Home is where we are. Home is inside of here, and everybody keeps trying to make home every place else. So therefore, you're not hearing. There's listening, there's seeing, there's feeling. All those senses take on another level of importance.
They do.
When you make yourself.
I mean, there's been
important.
studies that show people with migraines are less likely to get cancer. Why? Because when they walk into a room, they can smell all the chemicals. They can be sensitive to the toxicities in the environment. Somebody who's not present has no idea they just walked into a toxic situation.
Very interesting.
So oversensitive people, it sucks to be oversensitive.
Yes.
I've been one my whole life, but
Me
there's
too.
also a benefit to it as well, because you're not going to let toxins get in your environment where
Correct.
someone else is going to be oblivious to it because they're not listening.
Yeah.
And they think you're a baby because of it.
Yeah.
They're walking
suck
into
it up. You can do that.
funny.
No, I like
so
my
you
lungs,
start to
thank
really
you.
delve into it and you're like, huh, all right, so what does that mean? There should be a balance there. There should be a middle of the road.
That's what you were talking about, balance. Right. So when you're eating a food and you constantly are getting a stomach ache from it, maybe instead of popping, some Pepsid or whatever you're doing, lay down, reassess, and maybe it'll pop in, gee, I shouldn't eat those hot peppers
they sell an
3
awful lot of
times a
Pepsid.
day.
They sell an awful lot of Pepsid.
They absolutely do.
And that's a lot of dead digestion, bad colons. That's a lot of, it's a lot of things people are doing to their bodies. They don't realize that they're going to have results long term because it's instantaneously letting them do something that their body doesn't like.
Another term came to mind for me, trickle down. So while you're fixing
Everything
right here,
trickles down.
What's going to happen later, lower down in the system in another part of your body. We have to remember that there's multiple systems in the body, and your skin is an organ. And everybody goes, yeah, your skin's an organ. But are you truly hearing that? Are you truly believing that? Are you being careful with toxins? Are you just loading stuff on?
They can put a patch on you and you can absorb all the drugs through your skin. So what else are you absorbing through your skin?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. But we put all kinds of things on our skin. That's okay if your body can tolerate it. But if your body can't, you shouldn't be doing it.
Correct. You need to identify that, recognize it, and do something about it. Not go, well, I want to keep doing that.
Right.
Instead of saying, well, my body's telling me no, I need to find an alternative. Or I just may never be able to do it.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. We did not cover half of what we needed to cover, but then again, our first show, was all about getting everybody up to speed, getting acquainted with what we want to do, where we want to take you or invite you to come with us. And, we just really hope that this show will create a forum that you can listen and hear and try and not be afraid.
Right.
So thank you so much, Miss Marie, my co-host. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
And we'll be back the next time with another episode of Wellness from Within.
All right. Thank you for listening. And we're looking forward to making many more episodes to give you as many tools as you can to help you on your wellness journey. For more information, visit Marie, MarieKnoetig.com, and check out my book on Amazon, The Missing Piece to Health and Aging Gracefully.